there. I am recording now, so everybody who's on, please, if you talk, do know that you're being recorded.
There's a question on the chat that says, do we have a PowerPoint for chapter 7?
Okay, chapter 7, and that's okay. I will talk a little bit about chapter 7. The importance of chapter 7 is that one of the major things that social workers focus on is people who live in poverty, because they're some of the most oppressed population. And one of the things that, one discussion that we will have will revolve around what's happening with issues of poverty. And I don't know that it actually comes from there's a little bit of the chapter 7 on poverty that has different ways of approaching poverty. And I do want to have a discussion on that. And none of that will be on the test if that is one of the questions. So don't worry about chapter 7 being on the test. What I've done with that is we've had a discussion on different ways of handling poverty. And if I can figure out how to break you into small groups, I will do that and have each of you prioritize what you think is the best solution to handling poverty. Right now, one of the things that the government does is they give out food stamps. That's one way that they're taking care of it. One of the things that the present administration has really been working on, the coronavirus aside, has been developing new jobs. We recognize that people need to work in order to pull themselves out of poverty, so they've been creating new jobs. So that's another means, having a robust economy. Another means would be, food stamps is one thing. TANF is another. That's TANF, temporary assistance to needy families, is actual money that goes to families. And so is that a good solution? There are other different ways. So we'll have a longer discussion about that in the coming weeks through a discussion similar to our Sharing the Days in the Lives of Social Workers. Yep, that was a 15-minute answer to, that could have been yes or no. That's me, you know that. You're used to that. All right, here we go. Sharing my screen again. Okay, so this chapter was all about mental illness. And I want you to see if you can use the chat feature, even though my chat feature let's see, because I can see Anna and Andrew, shake your head yes or no if the chat feature is still showing up at the bottom. Okay, good. Okay, so I'm going to ask a couple questions, and since Jennifer or Jessica, Jennifer said, oh no, that's wait. Treasure, wait a minute. Okay, I lost control of my okay, there. Stay there. I lost control of my PowerPoint for a moment. So in the chat box, I want you to answer this question. This is not for points or anything, but what is the most common method of categorizing and defining emotional disorders? Give your answer in the chat box. It's at the bottom. And I give you a hint. It is usually described by its acronym with 3 letters and a number. And I can't, where's chat? Chat is
Grace replied saying DSM-5.
Did anybody else put anything else up there? That is the answer. Good. Okay, who answered first?
Oh, it was me.
Oh, okay. You as in Grace. Thank you, Grace. Absolutely right. Very good. For some reason, I can't see chat. Okay, but you're correct. Let's say. So the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. I should have said, okay, so what does DSM stand for? That's what it stands for. And we are in our 5th edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. And this is what it looks like. It's a standard classification of mental disorders. It's intended for clinical settings, so hospitals use it, psychotherapists use it, and it does have a classification. It has a criteria set, and then it has a text or a narrative that says, this is what a disorder is about, or what a specific disorder is about. And when I was in school, hold on just a minute. This, can you see that? This light's not good. This is what I studied, okay? And when I graduated with my MSW, this is what my family bought me, okay? It's the DSM-4 TM. So I don't really know what the DSM-5. I didn't study the DSM-5 in graduate school, but they made major changes to it. But the thing that you need to know, if I can back this up, can I? This is what you need to know for the test, okay? Make note of that. For those of you who can't see the screen, it's the first slide on the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, okay? That's the description of it. But here's how it's laid out. It does have classifications, and when somebody comes into the ER, for instance, into the mental health ER, the docs have to look at them, look at the clients, and make a decision on what kind of disorder they feel like there is. The nurses do a medical assessment. The social workers, their piece of it is in the descriptive text at the bottom. I'm trying to move this up because I can't see it. Which provides what the risk factors are, what are some of the cultural issues, and what are some of the other related issues related to the diagnosis. Okay, so within the DSM-5, you have a team that looks at the bio, the psycho, and the social. Which one do you think, you can do it in the chat or you can unmute yourself, which one do you think the social work really focuses on? Bio, the psycho, or the social? And the answers are what? In the chat. Social, yes. Social with a question mark, yes, correct. That's the majority of what we look for, because the bio piece is really kind of dedicated to the doctors and the nurses. The psych piece of it, they do have psych techs who are going to look at the emotional, and the psychiatrists also do that. Ours is about what's the environment, where, how do we see these people in the context of the environment? So the cultural factors and things like that are there, the social piece. Okay, ready to move on? Hearing no objection, I'm moving on. So here are a couple pros and cons. The biggest pro is that it does, the DSM-5 does look at the bio, the psycho, and the social, which is something that social work really values. And in addition to that, it does, especially in the DSM-5, it does incorporate cultural issues. In the DSM-4 TR, and I actually started with the DSM-3 when I was studying, it really didn't focus on cultural issues, but the new DSM-5 does do that. So there's some good changes. The big thing about the DSM-5 is it is about labeling, and it is not evidence-based, though. And as you know, one of the things that, can I show that to class? Okay, can I show you what's going on? You know I'm easily distracted by family, so. As you all know, Debbie, my daughter Deidre works where? Either in the chat or where is she? Or I'm sorry, what does she do? She's a physician. Okay, she is seeing patients, so here's what Debbie is making. This is a surgical cap, because they're getting ready to see COVID-19 patients and these. So this is Debbie's project. And she knows that doctors are all geeks. So you see what's on there? It's a Harry Potter theme. So I don't know if it's up there then or not. That's what Debbie's working on.
It is upside down.
Okay, it is upside down. So I put the mask on upside down. Thank you, Debbie. So you think I was distracted at U of H Clear Lake? Come to the house. I'm really distracted. And there's only two of us here. But that's what Debbie's doing for Deidre. Deidre's, just a side note, Deidre is doing family practice, and her first week when they started taking the coronavirus seriously, she said it was like going into a war zone because everybody wanted to be tested. They were coming in. They immediately set up some stuff outside so that they didn't have to come into the clinic. It's going down a little bit now, but they're beginning to surface some people who have the virus. So she's run into people who have the virus. And so she right now said, I really do need, they're always, as you know, they're lacking in supplies like masks. And so the masks that Debbie are making is they put their actual R95 mask inside the mask so that they can use it over and over again. But so Debbie made a couple of those, sent her them, and then Deidre said, we really need surgical caps because when we have to intubate, and they're training each other on intubating. When I have to intubate, I have to have a surgical cap on. So she's right in the middle of it. So please think about her. And my hat's off to anybody who's in the healthcare field. So here we are. Okay. So the major con against the DSM-5 is the labeling, and it doesn't incorporate research. It's not fully evidence-based. Questions, comments? Okay, so there are two alternatives to the DSM-5. The first was developed by the NASW, and I'm not sure how to answer or ask this question, but I'll just jump into it. It's called the PIE system. Does anybody want to take a guess, or do you know what PIE stands for? And I used this term a while back. The first word, it's an acronym. It starts with, the P is for person. What does I and E stand for? What's your guess? Person, no one yet. What's the image? Oh, did you do a snapshot? This way.
I tried to send a Harry Potter meme, but it didn't work.
Okay, that's funny. Okay. Very cute. All right, love it. I love it. Yeah, it didn't go through. Okay, so the NASW back in 94, I think, introduced another classification system. Close, Tabby, close. You said it's person, individual, environment. I'll give you, that's very close. Environment is correct. Person, I also guessed environment. Yeah, but Tabby got it first. So it's not individual environment. The I would normally be lowercase, and it's person in environment. So very good, good guesses. And okay, there we go. So it was 1994. So the only reason I introduced this to you is that the DSM-5, if you want to get paid right now, and if people, and this includes Medicaid and Medicare, if you want to get paid, you have to use the DSM-5. However, because social work is what it is, we try to advocate for other means of classification so that people aren't labeled. And we also focus on the environment. So I do want you to know this information, although you will probably never in your social work profession use this as a classification system, do know that it is an alternative. Okay? And then there's one other alternative, and this will be, a multiple choice question or something on the test. And you'll get the PowerPoints are up on drpeterw.com and Blackboard. So the other alternative is very new and not used that often, but it has potential, and it's based on research, and this is really new as in 5 years old. It's called the research domain criteria. And what it's trying to do, and I don't know how successful it is, but if it does succeed, then you heard it first on Introduction to Social Work over the internet. If it is successful, it's going to be based on research. And so it incorporates both behavior, neurobiological measures, and genetics. Okay. For now, again, this may not be something that you end up using whatsoever. It's so good that I can only see 4 faces because I can't see people's eyes glossing over. So, questions on, go ahead.
Yes. Can you repeat that, please? Whatever is going to be on the exam. Yeah.
This definition will be on the exam. Research domain criteria will be on the exam, as it is right there. And the question will be something like, what is an experimental approach to the classification of mental disorders that incorporates multiple dimensions, as it's written right there? Then this will be on the exam also. The PI system, established by the NASW as an alternative classification for coding emotional social problems, and then this one will be on there too. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Apologize for those of you who are just calling in. Okay. Okay. So use the chat box again for this. But the National Institute of Mental Health defines several types of disorders. So my question to you is, name what you think are some of the major mental health disorders and start chatting away. I want to see if you can come up with all 6 of them. Very good. Nice. Everybody thinks bipolar is one of them. Learning attention is very good. ADHD, anxiety, good. Okay. Keep going. You're getting very close. Okay, so I'm going to read a couple of these, and I think you may have most of them. So we have depression, schizophrenia, bipolar, anxiety, PTSD, borderline personality disorder. Okay, good. Bipolar disorder, learning attentions, ADHD, question mark, which is attention deficit, you know what it is, anxiety, ADD, and that was 2 question marks. Attention deficit disorder. Okay, Alyssa, I see. Big one. Addictions. Oh, very interesting. Depression, schizophrenia, personality disorder, post-traumatic disorder, and multiple personality. Okay, I was waiting for someone to add that one. Multiple personality. I love multiple personality disorder because that's what all the, or a lot of really good scary films are about. But multiple personality disorder is very, very rare. So because I did not know if it was correct. Got it. Thank you, Alyssa. All right. Okay, I think we got all of them. So, so depression, we had that down. Very good. Bipolar disorder came up several times. Schizophrenia, exactly. And anxiety disorder was in there. Attention deficit disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder. And that's the one we missed. Autism. Autism is now part of one of the major mental health disorders. Actually, prior to about 6 years ago, it was not considered a major disorder. And fortunately for people with autism, the lobbyists for people with autism have really, really promoted this. And if y'all don't know, University of Houston Clear Lake is world known for the work that they do. They have a behavioral analyst program. If you've heard of that at UH Clear Lake, it is like top notch in the world. And they have some major, major work with autism. So good work, folks. These are the 6 major types of mental health disorders. Remember, multiple personality is not one of them, because on the multiple choice exam that you have, I do have like multiple personality and a couple other ones. So that's not the right answer. Just a clue for the test. Questions before we move on? Okay. So some views on mental health in the United States. We have gone to the concept of community health. And so with that, there has been deinstitutionalization of people with mental health disorders, and there has been a move towards providing services in the least restrictive environment. So, I would like you to, it might be easier actually to raise your hand if you can help me with these 2 definitions. First, can somebody give me a definition of what you think deinstitutionalization is? Okay, Kim, I will unmute you. I'm sorry. I should have let you. Go ahead. Go ahead, Kim.
I think it means if we can treat or make the situation better without putting them in a quote unquote sterile environment, if we can treat them in their current environment and it gets better, I think that's the best way to do it.
Okay. That was very good. Very good. Yeah, very good, Kim. Anyone want to add to that? Does anybody remember there was a social worker back in the 1800s who did work with the mentally ill, and what she did is she really focused on deinstitutionalization. Does anybody remember that person's name? Chat box or raise or voice, either way. I'm taxing your brains. Okay, back.
Was it Elizabeth something? I don't remember the last name.
Not Elizabeth. Someone's breaking up. Put it in the chat. More. Chat 4. Yay, very good. Okay, so, all right. Karma points for Jackie. Oh, there's a couple of people who picked it up. Jackie, Alyssa, Anna said yes. I guess we'll give you partial credit for that. And Andrew got it right. Sorry, it was not Richmond. It was not whatever her name was. What is it? Was it Kim Richmond? No, Mary Richmond. It was not Mary Richmond. It was Dorothea Dix. Sorry. Good work. Okay, so yes, Dorothea Dix back in the 1800s fought for deinstitutionalization, and it's what Kim said. It really is treating people outside of the hospital. And there's been there was a real move to do that. And this goes also along with the concept of least restrictive environment. So can somebody give me what you believe is the definition of least restrictive environment? Preferably by unmuting yourself. Andrew.
Yeah, I have, so I understand this to be, so maybe we put people in, like in the past, we put people sort of in a mental hospital, and now we work towards putting people sort of in a day program or like an IOP where they can come and go and live at home, where they get the help they need during the day and the structure, and then they go home and then they start implementing the skills they learn into their daily life.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right on target. And I think you named all of them with maybe the exception of a group home. So we have this continuum of services, thank you, Andrew, that goes from being in a mental hospital where patients cannot leave to having patients at home with a mental illness, and they either go to a day treatment program or they see a therapist on a regular basis. And then there is something between the home and the mental health, and there's a lot of group homes that serve the mentally ill. So that's exactly correct. And here we go. So these are the two definitions that I want you to know about mental illness, particularly here in the United States. We are focusing on doing what we can to get people out of the hospital. And there's an economic reason for that. It's more expensive to have people stay in mental hospitals. So from a financial standpoint, it's better to get them day programs, services in their home, and then the least restrictive environment. So on the test, this is what the definitions will be. Oops. Okay. Thank you. All right. We're almost done. We're not too far. Because I can see 3 people and everybody's eyes are glazing over. So substance abuse. One of the things that, you'll see test question there in a minute. So one of the things about substance abuse is that it is highly correlated with a lot of social problems within the U.S. So as a social worker, you will eventually run into issues of substance abuse because it is so correlated with health problems that we deal with. It's so correlated with child abuse, correlated with domestic violence. It's correlated with dropping out of school. So you're going to see these things. And so I want to spend just a small amount of time on substance abuse. And part of what we're going to do is walk through the different family roles that are played within a house where there is substance abuse. But one of the questions that this will be on the test, in the chat box, as quick as you can, what is the oldest and most commonly abused substances in the world? And it's okay if you get it wrong. I just want to see if you think you know. The oldest and most commonly abused substance in the world. Only 2 people have responded so far. Oh, look at all those responses. And now anybody who wants to change, oops, I screwed that up, didn't I? So, yes, I like that gas bar, good. So if anybody wants to change their answer, feel free to. Hit Tabby. Let's see. Maria, you can change yours too. Jennifer, you can change yours too if you'd like. Oh, that's Alyssa. You know what? You put that as a question mark. It's definitely not the oldest, so it isn't the right answer. But prescription drugs, we need to talk a little bit about that. So, people at the top, by the way, you got it right. Oh no. Okay, sorry about that. I'm scrolling through this, and so okay. The answer is sorry. I don't know how to control this chat box yet. So the answer is alcohol. Thank you. The interesting thing, and I wouldn't mind your questions on this. Okay, so my PowerPoint's not moving. There it is. Okay. Alcohol is, okay. So alcohol is the oldest and most commonly abused substance in the world. Does anybody want to take a guess at why it's most commonly abused? There's a financial reason for it.
I have a guess. My guess would be because it's the most socially acceptable.
Correct. Very good. Good answer. Most socially acceptable, and it has some of the biggest lobbyists. Here in Texas, as I don't know if you noticed that during this stay-at-home order, one of the things that the governor lifted, if you didn't hear, was that restaurants, it was outlawed. You could not go to a restaurant and bring any kind of alcohol out. They lifted that. So and that was for financial reasons. So the alcohol industry has great lobbyists in both in the U.S. and in Texas. Easily accessible and affordable. In the 1920s, it was very cheap to acquire. To be honest, right now, in Texas, it is very cheap to buy beer. You can buy beer cheaper than you can buy milk. And that's because there has not been, for about 15 years, there have been no new taxes on beer in Texas. Doesn't make It's got a good lobby. So financial reasons, very good. Okay, so some other commonly abused substances include depressants, narcotics, hallucinogens, inhalants. One thing that I will let you know, inhalants, gasoline, and paint. There is another term for that. Does anybody know what that term is? Chat away or tell me. It's called the poor man's drug. And reason being is it's even cheap. It can be cheaper than alcohol. And people take spray paint, put it in the baggie, and they huff it. The thing about and they call it poor man's drug, is it is one of the most damaging things to your brain. And back when Debbie and I were working with juvenile delinquents, we ran into a couple people who were huffers, meaning they put paint inside a bag and huffed it. And you could tell physically. Computer air duster too. Thank you, Andrew. Right. Sorry. It just it attacks the brain cells almost immediately, and you can see it physically on people who are huffers. Questions before we move on? I'm almost done, trust me. Well, actually, I'm not. I have to go through the whole family role, but you'll get to hear about my family. Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So on the 6 major types of mental health problems.
Yes.
We don't have substance abuse or addiction or anything like that on there. And I'm curious as to why that is. Is it because substance abuse comes after the mental health problems, so to speak? Or do you understand? I think it should be on there.
Yes, I absolutely understand your question. And the answer to that is we try to treat them separately. I think I thought you already read it. There is, okay, what we do, there's different philosophies about it. We have substance abuse and we have mental illness. And some questions are, did the mental illness come first? And they tried to did an individual try to treat that by using their own drugs, self-treatment? Or did the did the substance come first and then that caused the mental illness. So that's actually different theoretical perspectives. And so we try to treat those two disorders differently. One is a mental illness and one is substance abuse because they very specifically have different modes of treatment. So that's why it's not listed as a major mental health disorder. Good question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, Flora says that the inhalants also age them too. Absolutely, as does meth. So, and I guess meth is another poor person's drug. Okay, I'm going to move on, I think. Oh, just a couple, this is kind of closing out the substance abuse piece. Somebody had listed in their prescription drugs, and it's prescription drugs is second to to alcohol as the most commonly abused. And the thing about prescription drugs is they have an advantage in that they get to advertise. They get to advertise on TV. You actually will see it's getting less and less because there's lobbying against psychotropic medicine being advertised on TV, but there's still a lot of psychotropic medicine that is advertised to help fight depression, but a lot of the drugs that are being abused to fight depression are ones that you can get high on, and it gives people a nice high. So these are a couple of the commonly abused legal drugs. So does anybody know what the over-the-counter, the cold and cough medicines, what you make out of cold and cough medicines? Does anybody know in the chat, or unmute yourself? There we are, meth. Yep, correct. Meth. Okay, so one of the things, if you want to order one of the medicines, I can't remember.
Is it Claritin?
Pardon me? Claritin, yeah. Which is, I'm drawing a blank on what it is, but you have to go to the pharmacy to say, I want this. They don't sell it. They don't sell it over the counter anymore. And it is a cold medicine. I'm sorry, it escapes me right now. But you can still buy it without a prescription, but you have to go to the pharmacist and say, and it's DM, you know.
Is it the Robitussin?
Pardon me?
Robitussin?
No, I was thinking of Mucinex DM.
I don't know, but I used to work at the pharmacy and it was very serious. You know, we have our whole system.
Yes.
That
right.
Kept up with it.
Yeah. And I was thinking of, and you're right, because you can make meth out of Robitussin, and then Mucinex DM or Mucinex D, not the DM. The DM you can find on the counter, but the Mucinex D, I think that's the right one that you can make meth out of. Thank you, Caitlin. Closing the chat, and here we go. Okay, substance abuse in families. So the big thing about substance abuse, as I mentioned, is it does impact families with regard to domestic violence, criminal activities, and the like. So one of the things that does happen with families is if there's a substance abuser, family members take on different roles within the family. And there is a theoretical perspective on how to work with families of substance abuse, but also these roles are not necessarily just with a family that has substance abuse. These are roles that many families have whether there's mental illness there, whether there's substance abuse there. So I wanted to close with the roles within a family that people often played. And I have to let my family know that I'm talking about them and divulging information about them, because I'm going to go through the roles within a family and describe them as I see them within my own family growing up. So you're getting into business, and my family's like, oh my God, quit talking about me. So within our family, if you recall, we had 4 kids, right? Okay. And one of the roles that happens within a family is a hero always comes out. Do you want to take a guess at who in my family became the hero out of our children? Who played the role of the hero? And that is the perfect child. Going into the chat. And it is Debbie. Debbie is the hero for sure. Oh, well, she is the hero because she's doing something for the doctor. There you go. Good answer, Floor. Yes, Deidre kind of played the role of the doctor, the hero within the family. She was always the one who said, "Okay, we have to make sure that everything is stable within the house," and she was always the over responsible person. She was the oldest, and typically the hero is the oldest. She was the only one we bought a car. One thing because she was the oldest, but also we said, okay, you have to have exceptional grades in order for us to buy you a car. The other kids didn't. They relied on her to drive them around. So she was the one who was making sure that there was no disruptions within the family. The scapegoat, and I'm just gonna, I know I can't tell that I'm losing you, but I don't think anybody's signed off yet. But they're really lost. But the scapegoat, and I just pulled your faces down to the bottom so I can see a little bit better. Where she is, okay. I'm looking at people now. So the scapegoat in our family was our second child, Jeremiah. He was the one who was always getting in trouble. And so if there's anything going on, it was Jeremiah. And we're like, okay, what's Jeremiah doing? What is Jeremiah doing now? And he was the one who got in trouble the most. The lost child was Erica. Erica is the youngest, and typically the lost child is the youngest. We would be all watching TV one time, and all of a sudden it was like, where's Erica? And she was off in her room reading a book, or she just decided to go to bed. So she was the lost child. Matthew was the mascot. The mascot is the person who in the family makes you laugh a lot. So if there's any kind of stress going on in the family, the mascot comes around and cracks a joke. And then finally, the enabler. When you have a substance abuser in the family, there's always an individual member who continues that substance abuse going on because it helps create a little bit of normalcy. And there is Judith getting in her car. I just saw that. Another person driving the car. Rose did it last week. So these are the roles that family members play, often in homes where there's substance abuse or child abuse, distress going on. And the reason I will always want to have you look at these roles is try to identify yourself, and you don't need to do that right now, but if you want to, you can. Identify what role you played. Even though I was the middle child, when I was growing up with our family of 6, I was always the hero. I was the great balancer. If somebody was getting in trouble, it would be like, let me solve this problem. Probably one of the main reasons why I became a social worker. I went into the helping profession. The one thing that I really want you to do is recognize what role you may have played in your family, because when you do family work, some of that stuff can come out. So if you were the lost child and you're doing some family work, and there is one of the people in the family is not talking, and you were a lost child, it's very possible you will continue to try to rescue that person and go, no, I want to hear from Brian. Brian doesn't talk, and you start pulling that in. Just remember your own stuff, okay? Remember, if you are the lost child, it's very possible that you may be working on some of your own stuff to help that different role. And the other thing is with these roles, and then I'll quit talking and let you all give any feedback you want. The other thing is people can play different roles either at the same time, like especially like a scapegoat and a mascot, or you can switch between roles. So with our family, there were 4 kids, so they played hero, scapegoat, lost child, mascot. It came out perfectly, even though we didn't have a lot of stressfulness. So I'm going to open this up for any discussion that you have. Sorry, too loud in my house. Had to continue the class and make it hard to concentrate. Okay, so if you're not, thank you, Judy. That's hilarious. Okay. Yeah, you make accommodations whatever way you can. Very good. Comments, issues. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and open it up. And unmuting. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. All participants are unmuted. I unmuted you all. Questions you may have about either the lecture, where we're going from here, comments. All right. Okay. I do want you to, okay, on the test, I will have those family roles. It'll be very simple. Know what those definitions are. And again, the test will be the final exam, which is at May 4th. Will be all based on the PowerPoints. Well, actually, it will be based on the PowerPoints and some major discussions about social work values. I'm going to ask you to go deeper into social work values, and I'll give you a clue on another. I want to do a kind of an essay, 2 essay type questions. One will be on social work values, and another one will be on probably around the area of importance of social work, what makes social work unique.
I have a quick question about the paper that we were writing on the social work that we were doing. Okay. I think it's supposed to be anywhere between like 4 to 7 pages long or something like that. Well, I started writing on that kind of a while ago when I first started doing my volunteer work. And now my paper's at about 10 pages, which is a bit excessive. And I don't really know how to zone in on the real like meat and potatoes of the paper, even with your outline of the paper. Okay. I feel like I have to, when I explain this one thing, I have to explain this thing to get you there, if that makes sense. And so it's become this overwhelming attempt to write a paper.
Okay. I'm surprised. I was just trying to pull up my my instructions on that for myself so I can see it. So the general outline is the agency has a mission, it has funding, and it has an agency structure. So that should be, each of those could be simply a paragraph long. The mission and purpose of communities and schools is to surround students with a community of support, empowering them to stay in school and achieve in life. One of the main things that communities and schools does is it does whatever it takes to help kids stay in school. So one paragraph on the mission and purpose. Then the next section on the agency is funding, which for communities and schools is funded from 3 different ways. They're funded with public money from the state of Texas. They're funded by the school districts, and they're funded by private events and fundraisers. So I think if you took each of these and tried to condense it into a paragraph or two. That's how to slice it down. I don't expect with populations served, specific programs offered, that may be where you're getting off track. The specific programs offered, you can make that very, very general. You don't need to go in, you don't need to say, okay, the food bank does the backpack buddy, they deliver food to the elderly, and they do this and this, and go into major detail. I don't know if that's where you're getting down. And then the identified social work values is similar to what you're doing from the readings. So does that help? Does it hurt?
It does. It helps. I think it's just still really early on in the paper for me. And usually when I get towards the end, I start eliminating some stuff and I start saying 10 pages is outrageous. What can we take out? So it's just going to take some more time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I definitely don't want it over 7. And I think I backed it off to 6 because you're not talking so much about what work you did at the agency. Okay. It is good to see you all again. And thank you for the participation in the discussion. And I hope the lecture wasn't even more boring than seeing me in person. No. You're shaking your head. Yes, it was. Okay, so one of the things that I will do, hopefully by Wednesday, I'll have essays 1 through 8 all on Blackboard. I think I have 6, 7, and 8 up there. And I'll go ahead and plug your grades in there so that you know they're there. I'm going to have, I'm more than likely going to do something different than the 3 to 5 page essay on the importance of social work. And more than likely, I will do something with the readings, because that's like a 2-page paper, maybe one additional. I may have you pick, this is what I think I would like to do, read about it and write about it, and just make it kind of like it. So that's my thought process. But I'm finding that for those of you, well, actually for a lot of you, you did some work, you did some hours, and I want you to get credit for that. So I want to do what's fair, and bringing up that especially if you've done the work, you should get full credit for that. If you did half of the work, you need to get more than, oh, I can write a paper and I get extra credit, but I did 50% of the work. So I want to be fair and equitable with regard to that. So I'll make changes. So if you want to focus right now on what you need to be working on, the final paper, the one about the social service agency, will remain. It's something that you should have already been thinking about, and continue to do the critical thinking essays. As it turns out, if you do all 8 of them, one of them may count for like the final essay or something along those lines. Fair?
Professor?
Yes.
There's a question in the chat for you about having a formal review like we did on the last exam.
Oh, yes, I would do. Yes, I would do a review of the final exam the week before May 4th, whatever that is, April 27th. So I'll go through the whole thing. We will be doing it online. I may be a little bit more vague because the reality is I want to continue to do the matching, the multiple choice, and some short answers like I had in the past. The reality is you are in a position to cheat any way you want. I'm going to trust that you're getting into the social work helping profession and you won't be doing that, but those multiple choice questions will be on there. And so you could very easily go on and make those changes. I'm not gonna, there are some there's some artificial intelligence out there that can watch you doing an exam watch your eyes to see if you're looking somewhere else, so they can tell if you're cheating. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to trust y'all. But so I do want to put a little bit more rigor into it, so that I make sure that you're getting it. And so where the rigor will go will be something in the form of an essay question, probably around social work values. And I'll give you a good idea, because you could actually start, writing that down for yourself and then put your stuff aside, but really start, it's going to be around social work values and probably the importance of social work, or something more personal about what stood, which of the readings stood out for you, something along those lines. So probably two essay questions that have a little bit more oomph. But I will have a review the week before May 4th. Thank you for watching that, Jennifer.
Oh, no problem. And Gaspar asked if the test would be on Blackboard or something else, but the word is proctorate, but I don't know what that means. What you do. Sorry.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to get it on Blackboard. I've got some time. It will be on Blackboard. If any of you have asked for additional time on tests, that will be honored too. It has to go through the disability office. So it will be through Blackboard at this point. Thank you for watching.
No problem.
Thank you. And thank you for answering that too. You're awesome. Thank you, Caitlin. All right, other questions? Thanks, Caitlin. I wasn't sure what that meant. Very good. Okay. Now I can read the chat. It's hard to do this though. Jennifer, thank you for watching the chat.
No problem. It's easy.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you all for joining. I really did enjoy the discussion. I know it's a lot different trying to do this via Zoom, but I think we got something accomplished. And I really admire your all's jumping into these readings. I can see that you haven't given up on this class and said, oh yeah, well, because of the deep discussions on both CPS and school social work. So next week, with the reading that you're going to be turning in, we will have a discussion on that same type format that we did today. Okay. Please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me. If I don't respond to your email, text me, put it in the group me chat. I'm trying to keep up with that. Because if it's a question for everybody, go ahead and put it in the group me texting that we're doing. Okay.
Professor, one more thing. Tabitha and Jarve want to know if you're taking roll.
Sure. Yes, I will. You'll get credit for this. I will. Yes, I do want you. I do want everybody to continue to log in here. I do have, now that I think about it, I do have a recording of this, so I'll know who all is online. I can look up your numbers. I may do a formal next week. I'll probably do a formal check-in with everybody at the beginning of it, so that we're doing roll. Thank you for that.
What do we have exactly due next week?
What do we have due next week? Hang on. I will let you know in just a sec because I have it up here. Next week, you have critical thinking essay number 7 due. Everybody turned in 5 when you took your exam, essay number 5. Critical thinking essay 6 was due today. I'm sorry, that's not right. Yeah, I'm sorry, yes. Critical thinking essay was due today, and you can upload it on Blackboard. Next week, critical thinking essay 7 is due. On the 13th, you have the option of doing critical thinking essay 8. If you want to start working on that, you'll definitely be able to drop your lowest grade. And as I have clued you in, more than likely, I'm probably going to use something like a critical thinking essay and maybe just to make sure that I'm being equitable about the hours. So if that, does that help? Okay. Thank you, folks. For those of you who are feeling depressed about not being around people, I really, really encourage you to reach out to others for support. I had a Zoom conference with my staff today. It was wonderful to see their faces, but some of them started talking about kind of how depressed they are. So I encourage you to reach out. Being isolated is not good. And so if you don't have a social support, start trying to build one. And I think there's a lot of people here in this social work program that you could reach out. Reach out through GroupMe. Okay? Stay positive. Gaspar has a question.
It's not a question. I just wanted to say that I literally live by the school. So if you guys need anything, internet, whatever supplies you might need, just reach out to GroupMe and let me know. And if there's anything I can do on my personal level, just shout out to me and I'll try to do the best I can.
Okay. Thank you, Gaspar. Appreciate it. All right. It is so good to see you all. And you're welcome, Alyssa. Thank you. Cool. All right. I will see you all next Monday. Please don't hesitate to text me, call me, email me. I'll respond. And I'll see y'all next week.
All right, thanks. Have a good night.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.